and good afternoon. It is Friday, and today we are going to be talking about zombie cells. Yeah, I didn't know we had them either, but apparently we have zombie cells and we're able to clear those cells naturally. And when we do that, we're able to live a much longer life. So this is some new research from last July, 2024, and it's talking about zombie cells. So apparently, from the time we are born, as we move down the continuum until the time that we die, we pick up zombie cells. Now, I don't know that we acquire them as much as we just don't clear them out. And so we have an abundance of them, but they cause us to die faster and to become sicker. So if there's anything that we can do to remove zombie cells, I'm all for that. And I bet you guys are too. So these zombie cells cause our regular cells to become less active and not to do the job that they're supposed to do. So harmful molecular and cellular damage occurs in billions of cells within the body. And this leads to impaired functionality. I think we all know that. Reduced cognition, increased frailty, and weakened immunity. Now, most people, when they come and see me, I'll ask them, because I'll look at their eye and we can see DNA in the eye and that kind of thing. And I'll ask them, does anybody in your family have XYZ? We'll say diabetes, for example. And they'll say, yes, my mom has diabetes, but she's 80 years old. Like, oh, well, when we get to be 80, we can expect to have diabetes. And that's just not the frame of mind that I want to have. I don't think that we have to have sickness and disease as we get older. But the reason that most people do have sickness and disease is because they don't clear out the zombie cells. So the zombie cells are found any place in the body: your hair, your skin, your eyes, your heart, and your brain. I know I said hair. Hair is already dead. You guys know that. All right. Although short-lived, zombie cells can have a beneficial effect on wound healing. In a transgenic model used for research, they play a harmful role in our overall health. Since our bodies are only partly clear chronic zombie cells as a defense measure, the longer they accumulate in our bodies, the more susceptible we become to aging and disease. So what we want to do is clear out the zombie cells. And guess what? We can do that. So zombie cells were first observed in 1961 when researchers noticed that normal active human fibroblast cells, which support and connect tissues and organs in the body, could only replicate a number of times in the lab dish. Now, anytime you see a cell that says blast, that is a cell that is growing. That is a cell that is forming tissue. And so the fibroblast cells, they could only replicate themselves a certain number of times, and eventually they became just inactive and could no longer divide. So they're just like extra cells that we don't need. So many cells in an adult human become specialized for specific purpose functions, such as brain, and they do not frequently reproduce. However, some cells, such as our skin and our blood cells, they reproduce all the time because we're constantly getting fresh blood and we're constantly getting fresh skin. We always know that. It's a continual renewal. So a zombie cell is in its twilight, not quite dead, but not quite alive. I've never watched the zombie series, so I don't really know too much about it. But these cells are just kind of hanging on by a thread. So, for example, a zombie sweat gland cells decrease sebum production by as much as 60%. Well, that means it's not really doing its job. This results in visibly less smooth skin. So as we get older, it might not just be that we have dry skin. It might be that we're not clearing the zombie cells, and the zombie cells are not producing enough of what we need, and so our skin just appears to be older than it has to. So this is why we do here at Abundant Health and Wellness, we do a lot of anti-aging medicine, skincare, and all that kind of stuff, because we want to not have zombie cells on our skin. Now, When the zombie cells' function is diminished, they continue to resist death. They have some kind of a mechanism in there that refuses, right, to die. So what other cells refuse to die? Cancer cells. So I'm not sure, and the report doesn't say, but it might be that uncleared zombie cells can morph into other kind of cells that we don't want to have because they can resist death. So all this, when this happens, this gives our body harmful biological signals that can impair cognition, increase frailty, and weaken the immune system. And to make matters worse, we get more zombie cells as we age, and we don't want to do that. So, harmful stimuli that produce zombie cells includes DNA damage, oxidative stress, obesity, high blood sugar, excessive alcohol intake, and impaired immunity. Now, you guys know, because we do this all the time, I show you this. Why do I show you this? Because this little scanner, Pharmanex, right? And in fact, we're getting a new one at the end of the year, so I'm excited about that. It's much smaller, going to be a lot easier to handle. But the Pharmanex scanner scans your skin for carotenoid activity. Now, where do you get your carotenoids? You get your carotenoids from your fruits and your vegetables. So if you're not eating fruits and vegetables, then you're just in real big trouble. But the carotenoids in your fruits and vegetables that you eat and absorb, so there's getting them in and getting them absorbed into the bloodstream, these nutrients turn into antioxidants. The antioxidants combat oxidative stress. So oxidative stress causes you to have more zombie cells. So you guys are smart. The more fruits and vegetables you eat, the less zombie cells you're going to have because you've got the antioxidants that combat the oxidative stress. So that's really important to know. We don't want to have zombie cells. Zombie cells release a combination of harmful molecules, and they secrete inflammatory signals such as cytokines and proteins that affect the function of the nearby cells and induce local inflammation. Now, we know that inflammation is the cause of sickness and disease, and while if I cut myself with a knife or something, what's going to happen? I'm going to bleed, number one. Then it's going to be pussy. It's going to make a scab. It might get red. I might have a fever, depending on what was there when I did that. That is an inflammation process, and that brings healing. But when we have unresolved inflammatory processes, such as sugar diabetes, hypertension, obesity, just chronic inflammation, which is what your cholesterol numbers show. If your LDL is really, really high, that is chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation leads to sickness and disease. Now, it says that these zombie cells can attack our immune system, and the outcome is really, really disastrous. So immune zombie cells attracted by the inflammatory signals from the zombie cells secrete their own inflammatory markers. Not only do they fail to clean up the mess, but they also add to the inflammation. Now, this phenomenon is known as inflammaging. I've never heard that word before, and is long-lasting vicious cycle of destruction that is the cause of many chronic diseases. And this is why the accumulation of zombie cells and age-related inflammation is associated with many diseases, including cancer, diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease, and Alzheimer's. So we don't want to have any of that. We don't want to have any of that. So over the past decade, researchers have experimented with various methods to destroy zombie cells and potentially extend human life. There are approximately going on right now 11 clinical trials in the U.S. clinical trial website that is investigating new senolytics. Now, a senolytic is an anti-aging drug, all right? So they're investigating new senolytics to see what they can do. So the goal of this research is to develop drugs that delay, prevent, or reverse age-related diseases such as Alzheimer's, osteoarthritis, vision decline, chronic kidney disease, and other conditions. So a senolytic is a small type of molecule used to selectively induce the death of zombie cells. So breaking it down, there are all kinds of clinical trials going on to develop medications that can do this. However, we're going to get to this in a minute, that there are things that you can do right here, right now to induce the death of zombie cells, and that's what we're really interested in. In a 2017 article in Nature, Jennifer Eiseneff, a biomedical engineer at Johns Hopkins University, stated, just by removing the senescent cells, you can stimulate new tissue production. So what is a senescent cell? It is a cell that is dying. It is a zombie cell. It is a cell that can no longer do its work. So what is supposed to happen when we're young and beautiful and healthy? What is supposed to happen is our cell is there. It does its job. When it's time for it to go on to wherever cells go on, the body catabolizes it, and then we get new cells and that kind of thing. But as we get older, that does not happen. And so they call these cells zombie cells, or they call them senescent cells. So when you get rid of those, you can jumpstart tissue production, and that will be our natural repair system and our natural healing abilities. So you got to clean out the old to let the new in, or to let the new do their job, because they just can't do their job if there's all this other zombie cells hanging around. So in a study published in 2015, a team at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and the Scripps Research Institute in Jupiter, Florida, discovered that a combination of two compounds, now I've never seen this word before, so bear with me, dasatinib, okay, and quercetin effectively killed senescent cells in aging mice. The treatment made the mice less frail, it rejuvenated their hearts, and it boosted their running endurance. Cardiac function and carotenoid vascular reactivity showed improvement in just 5 days after a single dose. So I could not find what this dasatinib is. It's some kind of a molecule that they're developing, but quercetin is something that you can get right now. And how do you get it? You get it out of your citrus fruits. Okay, quercetin is part of the vitamin C family, and it helps with the zombie cells. So none of us want to have zombie cells. Before testing the D&Q drug combination on animals, researchers found that using this combination together effectively reduced the number of old, damaged mouse cells in an in vitro fibroblast cell model. So what that means is they took cellular material, they put it in a petri dish, they added this DNC, they added that, and they found that it decreased the aging of the cell in vitro. So this is important. Dasatinib is a kinase inhibitor that targets a specific cell protein to treat leukemia. It is a small molecule drug used to slow the growth and spread the cancer cells in the body. All right. Let me read that again. It is a small molecule drug that is used to slow the growth and spread. There you go. Slow the growth and spread. Commas are very important. Cancer in the body. None of us want cancer in the body. Quercetin is a potent antioxidant flavonoid known for its anti-inflammatory, anti-hypertensive, and anti-obese activities. And where do we find quercetin? We find quercetin in our citrus fruits. Okay, that's where we need to know that. So we find them also in our leafy green vegetables, various seeds, barks, nuts, buckwheat, flowers, broccoli, olive oil, onions, apples, red grape, dark red wine, dark cherries, okay, green tea, and berries such as blueberries and cranberries. Now, what do all these foods have in common, or most of the foods? They have a very dark color. right? So it is the bioflavonoids in the skin of these fruits and vegetables that have the components in it that your body uses as an antioxidant to go in and take care of these zombie cells. So researchers found that using this combination of the drug dasatinib and quercetin to eliminate the zombie cells in animal models and in patients with Alzheimer's. In 2019, mice with Alzheimer's were treated with both drugs and showed reduced brain inflammation, improved memory function compared to the placebo group. Now, I didn't even know mice could have Alzheimer's. I don't know how they figured that out, right? We know that humans have Alzheimer's because of observable mental decline. I guess when they're doing CT scans and that kind of thing in the mice, they can see that the brain has changed in its structure, which is what happens with Alzheimer's patients too. But they're finding that with these mice with Alzheimer's, when they give them this particular drug combination, they have improved cognition. So there are trials for humans that are in phase 1 clinical trials. So only 5 people were given this drug combination for 3 months, and everybody was safe. The team is now conducting a larger trial to evaluate whether the drug combination can effectively treat people with early stage Alzheimer's. Now, diabetic patients, and we know that diabetes is one of the largest growing diseases here in the United States. Now, why is that? It is because we don't eat well, and the standard American diet is food that is not food. It tastes good, it is addictive, but they have no nutrients in them. And so because of that, because we eat that, then our bodies do not handle sugar properly. We become insulin resistant, all that kind of stuff, which leads to diabetes. Now, you may know or you may not know that one of the things that happens with diabetics is that they can, the diabetes ruins or hampers the blood flow in the extremities. So it causes the blood vessels to die off. And this is why diabetics can have their toes amputated, their foot amputated, their knee. You know, as the disease progresses, then the amputation progresses as well, just because of what it does to the blood vessels. So we don't want to do that. Now, in the eye, it does a little bit differently. In the eye, the diabetes causes the blood vessels in the back of the eye to start to leak, and that means that you've got blood on the inside of your eye that distorts your vision. Now, this is called macular edema, okay? It is triggered by elevated blood sugar levels, and so when you have this, you've got to go to the doctor every so often. Sometimes it's every month, sometimes it's every 6 weeks, sometimes, who knows. They give you a shot in your eye to dry up the blood from this macular edema. So in diabetic patients, in their retinas, they have a lot of zombie cells in the blood vessels, and these cells persist because they have a high level of the anti-death proteins. So there is a drug that is used. I don't know how to say this, but I'm going to try. Focelluclax, I don't know. And it is a drug that blocks the anti-death proteins, selectively eliminating zombie cells in diabetic retinal blood vessels without harming the healthy cells. So this is probably, if I'm making an educated guess, this is probably what's going on when the people have to go and get shots in their eye. I don't want to do that. I don't want you to have to do that. And so if we can clear the zombie cells properly, naturally, then maybe we can all avoid that. So we do have a supplement. I didn't bring it in today, but we do have a supplement that we do give our people that have vision issues. So my own husband had a hole in his retina. And of course, that's not a good deal because your retina is what causes you to be able to see an object. And so when that gets detached or that has a hole in it, that's just not a good thing. And so he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, yeah, you've got a hole in your retina, but it's because of your age. Hello, zombie cells, right? And so I told him to take this formula. He took this formula for 3 months. He went back to the doctor for a follow-up because he said, let's see what it looks like in 3 months. He went back to the doctor in 3 months, and guess what? No hole in the retina. We've had people that have been going to have these injections every month, and we've given them this supplement, and the doctor has been able to extend the time that they had to go back and get their injection. So they weren't going every month. They were going every 6 months, every 8 months, something like that. So there are things that you can do holistically to help yourself get rid of the zombie cells. Now, there are certain parts of the body, and you guys know I'm going to talk about this. We get to talk about this on almost every video. We talk about gut health. Why do we talk about gut health? Because our gut and our brain are connected. And if it's not connected, you're going to have sickness and disease. And this is why almost always we will put people on a protocol that reconnects the gut to the brain. Now, according to a March preprint article, scientists at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, a private nonprofit research institution in New York and home to 8 Nobel Prize winners, have successfully rejuvenated the guts of aging mice. Now, we know how to do that. I'm not going to get into all the scientific thing about that, but they found that when the gut was connected to the brain, the sentient cells, the zombie cells, were eliminated the way they should be. So how many people do you know that have gut issues? They're constipated, they've got IBS, they've got gas and bloating and that kind of thing. How many people that they eat, they're gluten intolerant? That's almost everybody. So one of the things that you can do for yourself and for your health is to get your gut in line and get it to be doing what it needs to be doing. So we want to get rid of all the zombie cells. Now, in addition to the drugs that we just talked about, there are many natural methods that demonstrate the potential to destroy the zombie cells. An unhealthy lifestyle, such as being overweight, smoking, having high sugar intake, can induce telomere dysfunction, resulting in the accumulation of zombie cells. So you probably don't know what telomeres are. I know there are some commercials on the TV that talk about telomeres, but think about your double helix DNA thing. At the end of the cell are 2 little tails, and those are what are called the telomeres. As we age, those telomeres get shorter and shorter, and eventually they're going to be nothing but nubbins, and we're going to be really sick, or we may even be deceased. And so there are some things that we can do to keep those telomeres long, and so we can have a long life and a healthy life. So we want to look at our lifestyle there. So a healthy lifestyle can prevent the formation and the buildup of zombie cells. So what can we do? Well, number one, we can do calorie restriction, which I know nobody wants to hear. Right here in the United States, we eat all the time. We have food available all the time, and we call it comfort food. We call it emotional support. We do all the things, right, which is not necessarily beneficial for us. So calorie restriction has been studied since the 1930s. And Clive McKay, a scientist at Cornell University in New York, published a paper showing that simple dietary changes could keep animals healthy for longer and extend their lives. He discovered that by restricting a rat's diet to near starvation, he was able to increase their lifespans by 33%. That's a lot. 33% is a lot. That's a third. Researchers have found that caloric restriction can decrease the proportion of zombie cells in the large intestines of both mice and humans. All right, so calorie restriction and intermittent fasting can reduce food intake without resulting in malnutrition. We don't want anybody to stop eating. We don't want anybody to go on extended levels of fasting, okay? We want you to do this smart. We want you to do this with the science that's behind it. And we know that when you do intermittent fasting and you do calorie restriction, the practices have shown to reduce aging by activating autophagy. So what is autophagy? Autophagy is what your body will be able to do. It's like taking out the trash. When you're eating, most of your energy goes right here to your tummy, and it works on the food to digest, absorb, and that kind of thing. So when you are doing intermittent fasting, when you are doing calorie restrictions, then your body isn't digesting all the time, and it has energy to do other things, and autophagy is one of the things that it does. Now, autophagy, I'm not sure if it's a Latin or a Greek word, but autophagy means you eat yourself. So your body's not digesting food that you're in, so it's working on cleaning up the zombie cells that you have in your system. And so we want to make sure that we do that. And if you don't know how to do intermittent fasting, then there's all kinds of websites out there, and there's all kinds of various methods that you can do. Now, in 2023, and I've already told you this, but in 2023, I had a goal to lose 30 pounds. And I decided that intermittent fasting was going to be the way I was going to do it. And so what I did, I can't say 100% every day of that year, but most of the days, I would say 95 to 97% of those days, I had one meal a day. At the end of the day, it was a healthy meal. It was salad with steak, or it was a steak and baked potato. I mean, it was a healthy meal. No fast food, no sugar, none of that kind of stuff, right? And I did that for a whole year. Now, I ended up actually losing 40 pounds, which was okay because I needed to do that. But my body got into a state where it just didn't want to eat. And so, in 2024, I'm doing some self-assessment, and I'm thinking, you know what? You did intermittent fasting for a whole year, and that was fine. You achieved your goal. But this year might not be the year that you want to keep doing intermittent fasting, because then you can set yourself up for some nutrient deficiencies. And so we're not wanting you to do that. But intermittent fasting relieves the burden of digestion so that your body can go into autophagy. So that is a Greek word. Numerous studies on worms, flies, and mice have confirmed that increased autophagy plays an anti-aging role. Okay? Upregulating autophagy-related genes has been shown to delay aging and extend the lifespan. Certain dietary supplements, such as resveratrol and curcumin, are also believed to induce autophagy while benefiting heart and brain health. Now, exercise, I know I'm going to step on some toes here because nobody really likes to exercise. Now, that's not true. There are people that like to. I'm related to one of those people. Well, I'm related to two of those people. I don't particularly like to exercise. However, it's something that we need to do, and it has been found that there is a decrease in the presence of zombie cells in critical organs such as the heart, the liver, the muscles, the kidneys, and in your adipose tissues. Why? Because of exercise. So they did research, and they found that mice who voluntarily ran on a wheel, you know how they do the wheels, it showed a reduction in the markers of zombie cells for their hearts in just 3 weeks. Now, this does not mean that for humans it'll take only 3 weeks, but 3 weeks is not just a long time to do all that kind of thing. So, in aging mice, aerobic treadmill exercises performed for 15 to 60 minutes 5 times a week for 6 weeks significantly lowered levels of zombie cell associated beta galactose, I can't say this word, beta galactosidase, okay, in the kidneys. Modern conveniences such as elevators and cars have reduced the need for physical movement, and we all know that we need to move more. I know that we need to move more. The last thing we want to talk about is meditation. And so meditation is, there's a lot of ways you can describe it. You can look it up. But for me, meditation is prayer. Meditation is mindfulness. Meditation is being quiet, trying to hear from the Holy Spirit, trying to hear, the way I need to conduct my life, because we're more successful when we do it that way. But meditation, and they've done the research that shows meditation has an effect on zombie cells. All right. And so there needs to be more to create a correlation of cause and effect. We're not there yet. But what they have seen is that meditation practices can yield positive effects on preventing or reducing the presence of zombie cells. This is underscored by the influence of meditation on various relevant biomarkers, including telomeres, all right, brain size, inflammation, stress levels, and immune function. Meditation has been shown to enhance telomere activity, reduce pro-inflammatory processes, and mitigate the effects of chronic stress, all of which contribute to the production of zombie cells. All right? As we age, our brain shrinks, and zombie cells contribute to this process by releasing toxic substances that kill the healthy brain cells. All right? In a 2015 study, they found that the brain size of 50 long-term meditation practitioners was well preserved, shrinking only slightly in age compared to 50 age-matched control people. So, you might not like to exercise, but you might be really, really good at meditation and prayer. Both are really good, and I would encourage you to do both. Calorie restriction, lots of antioxidants in your diet, prayer and meditation, and exercise. All those things can kill the zombie cells. We want the zombie cells to be gone, all right? And when the zombie cells are gone, it creates space for cellular regeneration and renewal, and it is an anti-aging practice. We're all about anti-aging here, and that's why we do the anti-aging skincare. That's why we do the vitamins, the Pharmanex vitamins that are guaranteed to be absorbed, and we can measure how much your antioxidant activity has increased according to the scanner. So that's a lot of information. I didn't even know we had zombie cells, okay? I just didn't know we did that. But now that we know, there's something that we can do about it, right? Restrict our calories, eat only good calories, exercise, and meditate. So that's a lot. That's a lot of homework for you. It is the weekend. It's cold down here in Texas, and so nobody's going to want to go outside. And it's a perfect weekend for you to be inside and be able to practice your meditation, do your exercises on your mat at home, and do a new menu that doesn't have all the fast food. So it is the weekend. Rejuvenate, restore, and relax. And I will see you next Friday.